All right, settle in, because this one needs a bit of space to breathe. We all know where this is heading, even if nobody in palaces or press offices will say it out loud. Prince William wants this resolved, desperately wants it resolved. And honestly, so do a lot of other people, especially those who actually care about the long-term survival of the monarchy and not just the next headline. Because let's be blunt for a second, the situation as it stands looks bad. Not dramatic Netflix bad, not let's sell another book bad, just quietly, structurally bad. The kind of bad that doesn't scream, but hums in the background and never goes away. And you have to remember something important about royal history that often gets lost in the noise. The monarch in waiting is always the one looking forward, not backward. The heir doesn't get to sit around polishing old trophies and reminiscing about how things used to be. Their job is to imagine how the institution survives the next 50 years. We've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. Look back at Bertie before he became King Edward VII. For decades, he lived in the shadow of Queen Victoria, who had very firm, very immovable ideas about how the monarchy should operate. But Bertie was already thinking ahead: media, public engagement, new forms of storytelling. He understood something crucial: if you don't adapt, you don't endure. That same mindset is what drives William. He can't move fast and he can't move loudly, but he can move deliberately, and when he does, the signals matter. Which brings us to something that didn't make nearly as much noise as it should have. If you've been on the royal website recently, and yes, some of us actually do that, don't judge, you might have noticed someone missing, not hidden, not buried, just gone. The former Duke of York, Prince Andrew, nowhere to be seen. That wasn't an accident, and it definitely wasn't a technical glitch. That was a message. Make no mistake, William wanted that message sent, clear, quiet, and slightly chilling. This is how people are removed. This is what happens when you no longer serve the institution. And before anyone jumps in with, well, actually, yes, technically Andrew still holds the title in law. He could still, if he really wanted to be petty, have stationery printed with Duke of York at the top. Titles don't evaporate overnight, but functionally, symbolically, publicly, he's out. No royal duties, no platform, no presence, no relevance. And if you think that message wasn't noticed across the Atlantic, I have a bridge to sell you. Because while most people would be relieved to fade quietly into the background after a scandal, others are furious that they're not being showcased properly. Which brings us, inevitably, to the Sussexes, or whatever branding experiment they're running this week. Now here's the fascinating part. Instead of being grateful for still appearing on one of the most visited institutional websites on the planet, they're unhappy, genuinely unhappy, apparently deeply annoyed. Why? Because the way they're represented doesn't match the story they want to tell about themselves. And this is where it gets interesting. Harry, we're told, wanted to reach out to William, a chat, a conversation, maybe even a bit of brotherly understanding about the website, about how things look, about certain outdated references. Let that sink in for a second. Of all the things going on in the world, of all the fires burning, this is the hill. Before we go further, quick pause. If you're new here, welcome. Hit subscribe if you enjoy deep dives that don't insult your intelligence. Like the video if you're already nodding along, and if you disagree, stick around anyway. The comment section is half the fun. Now, small detour because I can't resist. Weather's been absolutely wild lately, hasn't it? Storms everywhere, UK, US, everywhere in between. Mother Nature reminding us she doesn't care about royal dramas. Stay safe out there, seriously. All right, back to it. We've seen this pattern before. Harry and Meghan don't just like media attention, they adore it, thrive on it, need it. Meghan especially understands presentation down to the stitch on a coat. Speaking of which, yes, that Sundance coat was nice, expensive looking, flattering color, no notes. Harry, on the other hand, looked like he'd wandered out of a garage halfway through changing a tire and thought, oh right, public appearance. Why does he always look like that next to her? We all know why.
Contrast, focus, it's not accidental. Anyway, William's position here is tricky. He can influence, he can suggest, he can push gently with his father, but ultimately King Charles still signs off on the biggest decisions. That's why Andrew's removal from the site mattered so much. It showed what was possible. Which leads to the obvious question people keep asking. If Andrew can be removed, why not Harry? Harry is not a working royal, has no intention of being one, publicly criticizes the institution, monetizes proximity to it, and yet there he is, listed, presented, framed. William has reportedly pointed this out, the inconsistency, the confusion it creates. When you browse the site, you see Meghan's achievements, Harry's biography, but none of it reflects reality as it exists now. And Harry is livid about one particular thing, the Centebele situation. For those who haven't followed it closely, Centebele is the charity Harry co-founded, and recently it's been surrounded by controversy, allegations, criticisms, uncomfortable questions. Harry has since stepped back, distanced himself, but the royal website hasn't been updated, which means that when people look him up, that chapter is still front and center. According to a solid source, Harry's team would very much like that removed, or at least edited, because it creates confusion, because it reflects poorly, because it doesn't fit the narrative anymore. And here's the brick wall they've hit. William essentially oversees the content. Alongside Catherine, he understands how digital presence works, what stays, what goes, what sends the right signal. So when Harry hoped to get this quietly changed during his last UK visit, nothing happened. No meeting, no quick fix, no behind-the-scenes favor. If this feels like a battle of brothers, that's because it is, but not in the way people imagine. This isn't shouting and slammed doors. This is institutional chess. And honestly, it highlights another failing on Harry's part. He keeps assuming relevance equals leverage, that visibility equals power. It doesn't. Not anymore. Meanwhile, Meghan reportedly wants her successes reflected more accurately. I'll pause here. You can laugh. I did. What successes exactly? Spotify gone, podcast canceled, Netflix quietly cooling, deals evaporating. I'm not being cruel, just factual. What is the website supposed to celebrate? A brand relaunch every 6 months? This is the core issue. William is not interested in editing the royal family's official platform to soothe two people who have chosen a separate path and are struggling on it. And why would he be? From his perspective, leaving things exactly as they are does something very effective. It lets the record stand. It lets the world see the mismatch between the image and the reality. It lets the discomfort linger. William and Catherine are not impulsive. They're patient, strategic, shrewd even. And if you watch closely, really closely, you can see how they apply pressure without ever touching the board. So I'll throw it to you. Do you think this is deliberate? Do you think the website is being used as a quiet tool? Or is this just bureaucratic inertia doing its thing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them, all of them. Like the video if this gave you something to think about. Subscribe if you want more of these deep dives without the fluff. And wherever you're watching from, US, UK, or anywhere else, thanks for spending a bit of your time here with me. I really appreciate it.